Welcome to the show, everybody. Today we have a truly fascinating guest, forefront of transforming traditional industries with cutting-edge technology. Chris Clark is an American entrepreneur, strategic growth leader, and co-founder of Acrematic, where he is revolutionizing land investment and modern land operations. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Phil. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
All righty. So your background is incredibly impressive here, particularly your focus on deploying modern technologies in the land field, AI-driven automation, intelligent platforms, for example, to scale traditional industries. Could you start off here for us by telling a little bit about your journey and what initially drew you to this intersection of technology and real estate here? What was the moment for you when you dove right in on this, Chris?
Sure. I'll go way back and kind of give you, the whole origin story. So you're kind of familiar with, like you said, how we got here to today. And, a lot of it takes place outside of what I've been able to do or my own career, of course, but just being reactionary to the market and changes in technology. If that sounds good to you.
That sounds fantastic. Let's hear it. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So back in the early 2000s, started my career as a corporate pilot, actually. And I was flying private jets for, primarily real estate developers. And I kind of looked
Huh.
around and I was like, all right, these guys have a lot of money and, they're doing some fun things. We're going to their projects all over the place. And I particularly landed with a group that was where I was full time with them at some point, and they were doing, ground up entitlement. They were taking a piece of raw land and entitling it, and typically they'd get it zoned with some sort of large commercial component, and then they'd build kind of what they wanted to around it. So I bothered the owner of that company enough with various entrepreneurial ideas, and finally he said, "Hey, listen, just come and sit with me on meetings and don't say a word and just see what you pick up, right?" And so he started just letting me sit in on meetings, and I got to see a lot of fun stuff with, ground up development, commercial, primarily power centers, with Walmart, Target, those types of tenants. And it was really neat. So I transitioned out of flying around '06, I think is what it was.
Okay.
Prior to that, I worked a couple of years sort of doing both for the same company. I was flying for them, and then I was also doing, various things in their development firm. And I kind of landed in the leasing department. I was leasing and doing sales, and
Mhm.
and then '08 hit, and everything kind of got decimated. That firm sort of just mothballed all their projects, and they didn't go to zero by any means, but they kind of let everybody go. So fast forward, I
Yeah.
migrated to a
Wow.
firm.
Tough time for everybody.
Very tough time, the GFC. So then went to selling REOs for the big banks. So I was working for a third party outsourcer. They were basically an asset management firm, and they were based in San Diego, California as well. And they were selling properties for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, GMAC, Chase, all the big guys, some of which don't even exist anymore, and like helping them offload their REOs that they had taken back. And
Oh.
so that was amazing because the two founders of that company, they really invested in their technology. And at that time, '08, '09, 2010, it wasn't just off the shelf technology. If you really wanted to have technology, then you a lot of times would have to build it yourself if you wanted it very customized.
Mm.
And so they did. They ended up building, a technology team in-house to build custom software to help manage all these REOs.
Wow.
So with that, got to see a lot of high volume real estate managed remotely. And
Mm.
me in particular, I was on the Fannie Mae team for a large portion of my time at that place. And I was managing the state of Oregon, but just sitting in Solana Beach, California, North County, San
Yeah.
Diego. And so I got a real eyeful of what it takes to do volume real estate remotely. And it was pretty
Mm.
impressive. So
Nice.
fast forward a few more years later, and I learned about the niche of flipping land. And, I'd always wanted to be a principal in real estate transactions, but never really had the money to do so. So in 2014, I found this niche of being able to flip land, and land was actually affordable enough for me to, take the nickels that I had and kind of put them together and buy some land.
Hmm.
And you could buy land for really cheap, just if you, as long as you go far enough away from the city centers, you can buy land for really, really cheap. I'm not
Sure,
talking
sure.
about a nice
Yeah.
infill lot or a commercial lot. So that's where I
Hmm.
got started. And it wasn't a lot of money. I mean, making a few $1,000s on each deal, but I realized that if we could build it and build the system to manage it, we could do it at a high volume and do, a ton of sales, a ton of deals every single month. And
Sure.
so went from, just doing it on my own and kind of getting a proof of concept going. And then I brought my business partner, his name's Michael, in with me. I kind of convinced him after 6 months because I'm very good at, getting things started, and he's really, really good at just executing, the plan. So I was like,
Sure.
I need an executor here to just knock this out with me and kind of hold it all together. And so
Hmm.
convinced him to come on board, and we went on a, kind of a 10-year journey of um, and I forgot to mention, but he actually worked with me at that REO firm, the asset management company in Solana Beach. So he got to see the whole high
Hmm.
volume remote real estate play. And so he came on board and we went on a 10-year journey of doing land flipping at a real high volume. We got up to about 50 deals a month, and we were doing it nationwide. We ended up covering about 35 states and, I want to say like 250 counties. And we did over 2,000 deals when we were really like cranking. And so
Nice. Nice.
yeah, yeah, it was a lot of fun, and all those are kind of vanity metrics, but it was kind of neat to see that we were able to do that much and build a team and
Hmm.
all that stuff. But at the end of 2024, he came to me, and we're remote. I'm in San Diego, and he's actually in Golden, Colorado. But he called me and he's just like,
Hmm.
I just don't think I can flip another piece of land. Like I can't do it. It's just, we're basically like we could be selling widgets from China, and I was like, all right, I get it, So what do you want to do? What sounds exciting to you? And he had always kind of tinkered with software ventures, and he really liked that. And that's sort of what he wanted to do when I was convincing him to come into the land space. And he said, well, we've been doing this for 10 years and we've built a lot of stuff in-house. And everything that we're doing in-house, we're using a various off-the-shelf software and then kind of customizing it and duct taping it together. And it's this big Frankenstein, amalgamation of software that doesn't really suit us as land investors. We take stuff from the house flipping world or from the home development world or whatever, and we sort of modify it. So, like, what do you
Hmm.
think about doing some SaaS, some software specifically for our niche? And I said, okay, let's give it a whirl. Let's keep the land business going, but let's put it at a manageable level and let's start to build some software. So we started down the path around mid 2025. We started down the path of developing
Hmm.
what is now it's called Acrematic, as you mentioned when you were down in
Acrematic.
India.
Yeah. Well, now you're spearheading the integration of machine learning algorithms to parse land pricing from county records. I got that from my research here, right? So there's the topography issue, there's utility maps, and then market trends are part of this. Very innovative what you're doing there. Can you walk us through the impact of all these AI integrations now on a traditional real estate operation? So you're incorporating a lot of AI now with this, right?
Sure.
What,
Yeah.
yeah, what problems are you solving for land operators, and what does this look like in practice, Chris?
Yeah, so AI is just there's so much to digest with it. And we're trying to take an approach of, we're not just going to AI everything. And okay, the problem is solved. Hey, I want to buy a really good deal in such and such county, such and such state, and I want to make $1 million and just do this for me, right? Like that's just not, maybe it is a reality, but I don't know. We're not taking that approach.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to take the traditional way that people are doing things now with transactions and then using AI to augment their process and really allow them to do much more. And, at this stage right now, everything is so specific to, the location. A lot of counties have really kind of fragmented data that they push out as far as, is there a
Mm.
structure on the property? Is there not a structure on the property?
Yep.
And some counties are really good. So you really have to go in at a county by county
Yep.
level and like say, okay, is this data good? If it's not,
Hmm.
then let's try to use AI to augment certain things that impact value, that impact development potential, that impact what you would consider the highest and best use. And we're looking at what everything from access to soils to utilities to slope and using AI to help assist in the analysis of that to
Mm.
determine value, it is a huge problem to solve, really. Um,
Hmm.
but I'll give
Mm.
you one example. One of the big things that when you're looking at a piece of land that will impact value is whether or not it's landlocked.
Yep.
And if it's landlocked, it may be worth a quarter of the value of what it might be if it was not landlocked, sometimes
Hmm.
even less, just depending on how deep it is. And so we've built this AI filter to determine if something is landlocked, and we will start with the county data first and foremost, but then we're analyzing actual road frontage. And then a couple of the folks that are on the development team, one of them we brought in part-time to help with this. They actually had experience with Department of Transportation. So they knew a lot of different layers that you could look at to determine if something was actually landlocked or not.
Mm.
Um, but then even further, we're having AI go in and zoom down on if Google Street Maps is available, it will zoom down onto that road level and kind of use the AI eyes, we'll call it, to determine,
Mm.
is that property landlocked or not, but what type of road is it on? What's the speed limit on that road? It gives you a lot of clues to whether or not if it's a 20 mile per hour school zone, like that property
Yeah.
is not landlocked, and it's likely in a highly residential neighborhood probably. And
Mm.
so, good chance that that property is not landlocked. It'll take that as one point of reference and then add it to a bunch of stuff that, are other like cues to tell it whether it's landlocked or not. That's assuming it's not easy to verify. If it's on another location where it's maybe got a dirt road, it might
Mm.
look for little shadows from electric poles that might tell you that,
Right.
okay, this is likely on a road. So it'll look down from the aerial view and say, you know what, I'm seeing these shadows. They're telling me there's electric poles. Likely there's
Mm.
access here. And then we provide you a confidence level. It's 93% accurate that this is not landlocked. And it really helps folks, with their
Yeah.
analysis.
Thank you for that concrete example of what this technology is doing and how you're leading the race. And I don't really call it a race, but you're kind of leading the field in this type of AI analysis on some of these difficult properties, perhaps. But Chris, beyond the technology here, you're also focused on venture scaling, right? And building flexible tech stacks, zero friction tech stacks. Can you talk about that a little bit here too? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that is going to happen technology wise is everything is going to want to be connected. And so we're not trying to have everything directly internally stuck in our software, but we want to allow people to have connections outside the software that are additive again. So if you zoom down into very specific areas in real estate, everything is just so local. You might be a real estate investor, let's say within the city limits of Raleigh, North Carolina. You might know that
Sure.
really, really well, and you might have sources that you want to connect to our software and have our AI basically analyze outside of our software, outside of the data sets that are living in our software and our knowledge base, you might look out at something else that you want to plug in. And, that could be part of your tech stack as an investor.
Yeah. So that can be obviously it can be customized to whatever situation you're in because yes, real estate is so local.
Yeah.
All right. So there's many businesses struggle with transitioning, their workflows into something automated, into automated digital funnels here. What are some of the biggest challenges you see companies facing when they try to adopt these advanced workflows, Chris? What advice do you have for them? You know?
Yeah, I mean, we've lived it, right? And
Yeah.
so a workflow gets built and you try to just eat the whole elephant at once. And then you build
Mm,
this complex workflow with a ton of if-then scenarios, and then you forgot something. And now you feel like you need to go back and rebuild the workflow, but where is that buried in this massive workflow? And
right.
so I think that coupling people and giving them ownership, whether they're internal or external, with your workflows is really, really helpful until AI is actually there and it can kind of, you know, learn by seeing where things are getting kind of hung up in that workflow, whatever that workflow is, if you will. So
Mm,
could be an acquisition workflow, it could be a disposition workflow, could be a note management workflow. But I think just trying to do it all in one step with and trying to automate everything really can come back and bite you. Um,
okay.
yeah, so having people in there to, help prod that along and make sure that things are actually working is, I think, something that's probably helpful for people. I mean, AI is a lot to digest, and I just think we have to do it slowly, one little bit at a time.
Yeah. And I'll add human centered, please. Yeah. So, okay. I mean, you've clearly built a very robust platform and a forward-thinking approach to what you do in there. Um, what's one key takeaway that you could give to our listeners here? About the future of prop tech and the role of AI in scaling traditional industries. What are we looking at ahead here?
Good question. I think, in some lenses, people will look at it and kind of say, AI is just going to replace humans completely. And, other
Oof.
people think opposite, right? And so I think just with everything, the truth is somewhere in the middle. But if we really step back, humans want to be productive. That's where we get a sense of value in our lives. And
Hmm.
even if AI can do everything, for us at some point, which I don't see happening in the next 3 to 5 years, but maybe that is 20, 30 years down the road. I really have no idea. But I think really what it's going to do is it's going to make our lives a lot easier and just increase our output. So we may see maybe some people become even more productive than they would otherwise, and maybe more business goes into their hands if they're adopters of AI. Whereas if some people are not going to adopt AI and they're not going to be productive, then they may get less business. And that's where I see it changing. I think the folks that do adopt AI for the purpose of doing more with less, I think they're going to advance more so and just be more productive.
Nice, nice. All right. And where do you see your company in the next 3 to 5 years, Chris?
For Acrematic,
Hmm.
we are trying to be more of an all-in-one solution, very much, vertical SaaS and very niche. So we want to focus heavily on land, which is what we know the most about, and what my partner and I have spent the bulk of our careers in. And
Hmm.
so we want to try to go as deep as we possibly can in the land space with Acrematic. And just for folks that are either serious land investors or they're running even a land brokerage, let's say, and they focus heavily on land, we want to be a tool for them to make their lives easier and basically do more with less.
All right. Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. So um, perhaps before we wrap things up here, every business goes through some tough times now and then, and this would be for our younger listeners here. Can you describe and go through a tough time you may have had in your business? And, I run a business too. I mean, we go through challenges. And this would be for our younger listeners here. What did you have to do to pull yourself up and power through whatever you had to face?
Oh man, we could go on and on about that, but I think that persistence and just staying in the game long
Mm,
enough to be successful outweighs just about everything else. So myself and my partner, when we wanted to start doing it in 2014, we both had jobs. I had actually gone back to flying. I got
Yeah.
recurrent in aviation and started flying again on a contract basis. And I would kind of look for jobs where I could fly from here to New York and make a day rate, whether I was in the airplane or not. And I might look for a job where I could sit in New York in a hotel for 10 days and kind of get paid, but be able to work on the land business. And he had a job. He was working for a development firm by that point. And, he
Huh.
primarily would work nights and weekends. But we did that for 3 years and really just stockpiled every extra bit of cash away that we were making off the business so that we could go full time. So it took us from 2014 to 2017. And, most people won't do that. A lot of times you can kind of you got to live or be willing to kind of put in that type of work for 3 years and just not get any payment out whatsoever. I think we're all just so used to instant gratification. And I don't think my story is unique, but if you're willing to do something like that for a period of time, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 5 years, and kind of live like most people are not willing to live, then you can then create a life after that, hopefully that again, the people that aren't willing to kind of do that work and suffer through that pain, well, everybody's looking at them going, why are you doing this?
Mm,
You're misunderstood for that whole time, sort of by everyone around you, I would say. Um,
mm, mhm.
you can create something great. So I think a lot of it is grit, persistence, and just being willing to like keep putting
Mhm.
one foot in front of the other.
Great advice, Chris. Great advice. Thank you so much here. And where can people find you online? How can people get a hold of you, Chris?
So our website is acrematic.com and it's just ACREMATIC.com. You can email me, chris@acrematic.com, and or you can connect with me on LinkedIn where we found each other, Bill. And it's Chris Clark 111 because my name is so common that that's kind of the only handle that I could get on LinkedIn.
Chris Clark, 111. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris. We appreciate you being on Real Estate Mavericks here and wish you all the best with Acrematic moving ahead. So, all
My
right.
pleasure. Thanks for having me, Bill.
You're welcome. All right. Have a great one. All
You
right.
too.
That's a wrap. So that went well, Chris. Thank you so much again for hopping on here. And boy, when it comes to land, I think I'm going to look for your name first in Acrematic when it's time to get out there and do. My father was a bit of a land developer, so small time, right? And I'm in the kind of 4 to 6 multifamily niche, although I've mostly retired from that, but I'm still in it. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's a cool thing. And I've also dipped my toes in co-living. The young people are really looking at real estate differently or the living arrangement differently. And so I challenged myself. I said, I'm going to buy a property. I'm not going to look at it. I'm going to use all the technology to find it, to buy it, man. And I still have not looked at it. And it's running like a top. There were a lot of challenges doing this, but I
I
powered through
bet.
it. And so I got a co-living for a lot of young residents down there in south of DFW, Texas.
Oh,
Uh,
really? Okay.
yeah,
What
yeah.
what what what,
I,
what is co-living exactly like?
oh, in a nutshell, it's taking like a 30 or 40-year-old single family house that maybe needs a little bit of work, but it's in a great neighborhood, ideally on a corner lot. And you go in there and if ideally it's around 3,000 square feet and it has a double garage, you get in there and you put a lot of rooms in it and you have people renting the rooms. What they like about it is it's a great neighborhood. Now
Hmm.
you've got to pick a B neighborhood where people, occasionally park their cars on the street because there'll be some of that. It's got to have, a fairly large driveway. But I've got 8 residents, and it
Wow.
it's ideal for workforce housing. Young people that want to save money. People are saving up to buy the first house because they're not getting soaked. Renting a 2 bedroom apartment that they don't can't really afford. So, yeah. So that's it in a nutshell. I mean, it's taking a single family home and chopping it up. There's some gray areas on the legality here, but here's the thing. Like right now, where I live in New Hampshire, homeowners are buying an RV, parking it in their yard, and renting it out for big bucks for families that have nowhere to live. And they're
Whoa.
contributing. They work, mom and dad work. They can't find even an apartment. Things are so tight out here in this part of New England. I'm near the coast, which is a highly desirable area. That's what's going on here. So by hook or by crook, people are going to find creative ways to house themselves, and
Sure.
the government's just got to get with it and allow us to do more of this, so we can solve the housing gig. And anyways, that's what I've been doing recently, as far as my real estate stuff. But I'm enjoying, the podcast, and I will look to make sure you get some really good snippets here, Chris, that are going to be helpful for your company. And you are in the AI field, and so I do have a team of people that I work with. Obviously, quite a bit younger than I am, that do the AI build outs for people too. I'm quite sure you don't need that. So, um,
What kind of AI build outs do they do?
well, we're doing lead generation. That's a big one right there. So we're doing, for example, a company that's trying to break into a certain area of the construction field, and they need leads
Hmm.
for not only their product, but where they can communicate directly with government leaders. For example, their product is really good on uh, for areas that get a lot of fires, like California, for example.
Yeah.
So, how to get a hold of these people, talk to them, communicate with them, which helps the business and helps the government people that don't want to see the state of California keep burning down all the time. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, so specific certain areas that we will put our team in there and go right at it. Lead generation is one of them, and then you know, uh, you do build outs on tech stacks. And again, you know, I kind of coordinate things as far as reaching out and speaking with owners. And then, like I said, I have a team of young, savvy tech people that put this all together. And I'll be honest with you, some of it I don't understand. It changes
Sure.
so fast all the time. Next month, it's going to be a little different, a little better, maybe a lot better, so that's another business interest that I have. But, you've got something going good here. And it's about time somebody did, this type of advanced technology using the land. And when you were talking about the telephone pole shadows on the road, um, yeah, I mean that's an AI thing that they can identify stuff like that, which maybe that'd be, we'd be looking at little maps and photos and trying, and AI can do it so fast. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've had our team, which is, largely our initial due diligence team is 4 people in the Philippines doing that, right? We're looking at tons of properties and we're like, okay, like, is there, and they have their whole system, right? If it's not on a paved road and there's no street view, what's it on? Can you see, is there electricity? Is it in the front of the property, in the back? But I mean, they're just using their eyeballs. Now AI can do that.
yeah, much better, and 24/7 too. So
Exactly.
yes. So okay, so that's how you working with some folks there. I have a VA who kind of helps me out on the admin and things here